You already felt it before this message found you. That strange heaviness whenever her name appeared on your phone. That tension you could never fully explain after certain conversations. The way you walked away feeling emotionally drained while pretending everything was normal. And what hurts the most is that you kept trying to convince yourself you were imagining it, because deep down you never wanted to believe someone that close to you could carry hidden intentions against your spirit. But this message is not appearing in your life by accident. God has a way of exposing what your heart kept trying to excuse, and if you are hearing these words right now, then something inside you has already started waking up. Not everybody will understand this message. Some people will dismiss it immediately because they still believe every attack arrives looking like an enemy. But chosen ones learn something painful very early in life. The deepest wounds rarely come from strangers. They come from people who had access to your heart. You tried to stay loyal. You tried to keep the peace. You overlooked certain comments because you didn't want conflict. You ignored the strange competitive energy because you told yourself that's family. But your spirit kept noticing things your mind was trying to silence. Tiny moments, quick reactions, the subtle shift in her face whenever something good happened for you, the strange silence after you shared a breakthrough, the uncomfortable energy whenever you started becoming more confident, more peaceful, more spiritually grounded. You noticed it. You absolutely noticed it. And God noticed it too. That's why this season feels different. Because what was hidden emotionally is beginning to reveal itself spiritually. The masks are becoming harder to maintain around you now because your discernment has increased. You're no longer asleep in the same way you used to be. Your spirit has become sensitive to energy shifts, hidden resentment, emotional manipulation, and silent resistance. That sensitivity isn't weakness, it's one of the clearest signs that God has been sharpening your discernment through pain. The difficult part is that chosen people almost always question themselves first. You spent years wondering if you were too sensitive, too emotional, too observant, too deep. But the truth is, your spirit was detecting what other people could not see. You were picking up on emotional undercurrents nobody talked about openly, and because you naturally lead with compassion, you kept giving people the benefit of the doubt even when your intuition was screaming at you to pay attention. That inner conflict exhausted you because one part of you felt the truth, while another part of you kept trying to protect the relationship, and that battle has been draining your spirit for longer than you realize. There were moments when her words sounded supportive on the surface, but afterwards something inside you felt unsettled, almost like the conversation carried another layer beneath it. You couldn't explain it logically, but your energy changed around her. Sometimes you even noticed yourself shrinking unconsciously, holding back your excitement, downplaying your dreams, speaking smaller about your goals just to avoid triggering a reaction you couldn't fully explain. That was not random. Chosen ones often learn to minimize themselves inside environments where their light creates discomfort. And nobody talks enough about how painful that realization is when family is involved. Because you wanted genuine connection, you wanted emotional safety, you wanted to believe that the people closest to you would naturally celebrate your growth. But some people become comfortable with an older version of you, the struggling version, the uncertain version, the doubting version. And when God starts elevating you emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, it forces everyone around you to confront themselves. That's when hidden intentions begin surfacing, not always through direct attacks, sometimes through subtle resistance, sometimes through strange criticism disguised as concern, sometimes through emotional guilt, sometimes through creating confusion whenever you finally start becoming clear. You've experienced this already, haven't you? Every time you begin healing, tension appears. Every time you start gaining confidence, strange emotional pressure follows. Every time you become peaceful, somebody suddenly brings drama into your atmosphere. That pattern is not coincidence, and the reason this message is hitting you so deeply right now is because your spirit already recognizes the truth inside it. There's something else you need to understand. The enemy rarely attacks chosen people immediately through obvious destruction. First, the attack comes through emotional exhaustion, through confusion, through self-doubt, through making you question your own discernment until you stop trusting what God is trying to show you. That's why you kept ignoring the signs. You kept thinking, maybe I'm overthinking, But overthinking doesn't repeatedly predict the same emotional outcome. Discernment does, and when God keeps allowing the same uncomfortable feeling to repeat around someone, eventually you have to stop dismissing it. You know what's painful? Deep down you sensed this years ago. There were moments you caught certain looks, certain reactions, certain comments that revealed more than she intended to show. But because your heart naturally seeks peace, you pushed those moments aside. You told yourself not to take it personally. You kept trying to maintain harmony even while your spirit was quietly becoming exhausted. Chosen ones do this often. They carry everyone emotionally while secretly carrying themselves alone. People see your strength but don't see the emotional weight underneath it. They don't see how many nights you sat thinking about conversations afterward, replaying certain moments, wondering why something felt emotionally off. Wondering why interactions left you feeling heavy instead of loved. And the hardest part, you blamed yourself for noticing. That's how deeply compassionate you are. Instead of questioning the energy directed toward you, you questioned your own perception. But God is correcting that now, because in this next season, your discernment is going to become one of the most important protections in your life. Listen carefully. This does not mean you are supposed to become hateful. This does not mean you are supposed to become paranoid. And this message is not about turning your heart cold toward people. It's about finally seeing clearly what your spirit has been trying to reveal to you for a very long time. There is a difference between love and access. Chosen ones confuse those two things because they naturally love deeply. You can love someone while also recognizing that their energy affects your spirit negatively. You can pray for someone while also creating emotional boundaries. You can care about someone without allowing them unlimited influence over your mind, your peace, or your destiny. And that lesson is becoming unavoidable now, because your life is changing. You may not fully see it yet, but spiritually you are entering a transition season. Your thinking has changed. Your emotional tolerance has changed. Your soul is no longer comfortable pretending. Certain relationships feel heavier now because your spirit is no longer willing to ignore what it once tolerated. That discomfort you feel lately is part of the awakening. God is separating you emotionally from environments that can no longer carry where you are going. And one of the clearest signs this transformation has already started is that people around you are reacting differently to you, even when you haven't openly changed much externally. Something about your energy has shifted, your presence has shifted, your awareness has shifted. People can feel when chosen individuals begin spiritually evolving, even if they cannot explain why. That's why certain reactions around you have intensified recently, not because you became worse, but because your light became harder to control. There is someone listening to this right now who has been noticing more passive-aggressive behavior lately, more strange comments disguised as jokes, more subtle attempts to make you feel guilty for growing, changing, healing, or protecting your peace. And you kept trying to ignore it because you didn't want to believe there was hidden discomfort attached to your progress. But let me tell you something most people are afraid to say out loud. Some individuals feel safest when you remain uncertain about yourself, because your confidence forces them to confront their own inner unrest. And when chosen people finally begin awakening to their worth, the emotional dynamics around them begin changing automatically. You are not imagining this shift. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes chosen ones make is waiting for dramatic proof before trusting their discernment. But spiritual warning signs rarely begin dramatically. They begin quietly, repeatedly, through patterns, through emotional energy, through reactions that seem small individually but overwhelming collectively. God speaks through patterns far more often than people realize, and your life has been full of repeating patterns lately. You noticed that certain moments should have brought closeness, but somehow created tension instead. You noticed that your breakthroughs often triggered distance instead of celebration. You noticed that whenever you became emotionally stronger, somebody suddenly acted emotionally colder. You noticed that some conversations left you doubting yourself even after you entered them feeling peaceful. These patterns matter, because hidden intentions always leak through repeated behavior. And this next part is important. Sometimes the person carrying hidden resentment does not fully understand their own behavior consciously. That's why the situation became so confusing for you, because part of her may genuinely care about you. Part of her may genuinely love you, But another part feels internally disturbed by who you are becoming, disturbed by your spiritual sensitivity, disturbed by your resilience, disturbed by the fact that no matter how much life tried to break you, something inside you keeps rising again. That kind of light unsettles people who are fighting battles within themselves, especially when they compare their journey to yours. And comparison creates emotional distortion. That's when support becomes inconsistent. That's when hidden competition begins appearing. That's when subtle sabotage enters conversations. That's when encouragement starts sounding strained. You felt this, and the reason this message is reaching your spirit so deeply is because your soul is tired of pretending not to see it anymore. But there's something even deeper happening beneath all this that most people never understand until much later. Because this situation is not only about another person's intentions, it's also about what God has been teaching you through the pain of this relationship. He's been teaching you discernment. He's been teaching you emotional boundaries. He's been teaching you how to stop abandoning your intuition just to keep temporary peace. And most importantly, He's been teaching you that not everyone who has access to your life has access to your spirit. That lesson changes everything, because once a chosen person finally learns the difference between love and spiritual alignment, their entire life begins shifting, and something tells me you are much closer to that realization than you think. There comes a moment in every chosen person's life when God stops allowing confusion to protect the relationship. That moment feels uncomfortable at first because the truth begins breaking through the emotional excuses you once used to keep everything together. And for you, that moment has already started. You've been sensing it more strongly lately. The conversations feel different now. The emotional atmosphere changes faster. You notice certain reactions instantly instead of brushing them aside for weeks. Even your silence has become more observant. You're no longer emotionally asleep around people the way you used to be. And while part of you still wants peace, another part of you is finally becoming unwilling to betray your own spirit just to preserve appearances. That inner awakening is not random, it is spiritual maturity. And one of the hardest truths chosen ones must eventually accept is this: not everyone connected to you is connected to your destiny. Some people were assigned to certain chapters of your life, but not the season God is preparing to bring you into now. You've already started feeling the separation emotionally before it fully manifests physically. That's why your energy feels so conflicted lately. One side of you remembers the history, the memories, the loyalty, the family bond, but another side of you feels emotionally tired in ways you cannot fully explain. You've been carrying tension in your spirit for too long, and now God is making it impossible to ignore because your future requires clarity. Listen carefully to this part, because this is where many chosen people become trapped emotionally. They keep waiting for obvious betrayal before honoring what their spirit already knows. They think discernment only counts if they can prove something dramatically, but God does not always expose people through explosions. Sometimes He exposes them through repeated emotional patterns that slowly reveal hidden intentions over time. And your life has been filled with those patterns. You started noticing how certain people only seemed comfortable around you when you were struggling, when you were uncertain, when you needed help, when you doubted yourself. But the moment you began healing emotionally, thinking differently, protecting your peace, or growing spiritually, something shifted around them. That shift matters more than you realize. Because genuine love celebrates your elevation. Hidden resentment tolerates you only when you remain smaller than your potential. That sentence just confirmed something in somebody's spirit right now. You've spent years carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry, trying to fix atmospheres you didn't create, trying to explain yourself to people determined to misunderstand you, trying to prove your heart to individuals who benefited from your self-doubt. And what's painful is that you kept doing this out of love. You kept giving grace, you kept extending understanding, you kept making excuses for behavior that quietly damaged your spirit, because you believed family relationships were supposed to survive everything. But hear this clearly: God never asked you to sacrifice your peace to maintain dysfunction. That realization is becoming unavoidable now because your spirit is entering a higher level of awareness. And higher awareness changes how you experience relationships. Suddenly, things you tolerated for years begin feeling unbearable. Certain conversations start feeling spiritually heavy. Certain reactions become impossible to ignore. Even small comments begin revealing deeper emotional truths underneath them. You are seeing through things now. That's the difference. And once discernment awakens inside a chosen person, pretending becomes exhausting. You know exactly what I mean. Lately, you've probably felt emotionally drained after interactions that used to feel normal. You've caught yourself needing silence afterward just to recover your peace. You've noticed how your nervous system reacts before your mind even processes the conversation. Your body senses tension before logic catches up. That is not weakness. That is spiritual sensitivity. Chosen people often experience emotional discernment physically before they fully understand it mentally. Your spirit detects energy long before your conscious mind finds the words for it. That's why you've spent so much time feeling conflicted, because your heart wanted connection while your spirit was signaling caution. And now those signals are becoming louder, not because God wants you afraid, but because God wants you awake. There is a hidden truth most people never talk about. Sometimes the people closest to you become uncomfortable when your identity starts changing, not because they consciously hate you, but because your transformation disrupts the emotional roles they became used to. They learned how to interact with the version of you that over-explained yourself, the version that stayed quiet, the version that tolerated emotional disrespect, the version that constantly prioritized everyone else's feelings over your own peace. But you are not that person anymore. Something inside you has changed permanently, and people can feel it, even before you fully speak it. That's why the tension increased recently. It was not random timing. Spiritual shifts create relational exposure. When God begins elevating a chosen person internally, hidden emotional dynamics rise to the surface automatically. Suddenly, jealousy becomes visible, comparison becomes visible, hidden control becomes visible, emotional dependency becomes visible, and the painful part is that the exposure often happens slowly enough to make you question yourself repeatedly. That's exactly why this battle exhausted you so deeply. Because you are not naturally suspicious, you are naturally loving, you naturally search for good in people, you naturally give second chances, and because of that, you kept overriding your own discernment, trying to preserve emotional harmony. But harmony without truth eventually becomes emotional bondage. You cannot keep silencing your spirit forever just because the truth feels uncomfortable, and God knows that. That's why this season feels emotionally intense. Heaven is trying to separate you from confusion before confusion delays your calling further. There's someone hearing this right now who has spent years shrinking emotionally around certain family members without even realizing it. You learned how to monitor your words carefully. You learned how to hide excitement to avoid strange reactions. You learned how to celebrate quietly because visible joy sometimes triggered subtle negativity around you. That adaptation was survival. But it was never supposed to become your identity. Chosen ones often become emotionally smaller in environments that cannot spiritually handle their growth. And after years of doing this unconsciously, they begin forgetting how powerful they actually are. But God is restoring your awareness now. You were never meant to apologize for your light. You were never meant to carry guilt for becoming stronger. You were never meant to reduce your calling just to make insecure people comfortable. And the reason these words feel emotionally piercing is because part of you has secretly known this for a very long time. You've simply been waiting for confirmation. Well, here it is. That discomfort in your spirit was not paranoia. That repeated emotional heaviness was not imaginary. That internal caution you kept dismissing was discernment, trying to protect you. And there's another reason God is exposing this now, because where you are going next requires emotional freedom. The next chapter of your life cannot be built on constant emotional tension, hidden guilt, spiritual exhaustion, and silent self-betrayal. You are entering a season where your peace will matter more than performance, your discernment will matter more than appearances, and your spiritual alignment will matter more than forced loyalty. That transition changes everything, especially your relationships. Because once a chosen person begins valuing peace over approval, people around them start revealing who they truly are emotionally. Some become supportive, some become distant, some become uncomfortable, and some begin reacting in ways that expose hidden intentions they kept buried for years. You've already started witnessing this.
Notice how certain people become irritated when you stop over-explaining yourself.
Notice how some individuals become uneasy when you create boundaries calmly instead of emotionally. Notice how people react when they can no longer control your emotions the way they once did. Those reactions reveal more truth than words ever will, and your sister's behavior has been revealing things your heart kept trying not to see. Again, this message is not telling you to hate her. Hatred would only poison your own spirit. But wisdom requires honesty, discernment requires honesty, and emotional maturity requires honesty. You cannot heal while pretending unhealthy dynamics are normal. That's the lesson God keeps placing in front of you. And the reason this revelation feels so emotionally heavy is because family wounds cut differently. A stranger's jealousy hurts temporarily. But hidden resentment from someone emotionally close creates confusion deep inside the heart, because it clashes with what you hoped the relationship would be. You hoped for safety, you hoped for genuine support, you hoped for mutual love. And when hidden intentions begin surfacing instead, it creates grief. Not because you hate the person, but because you mourn the relationship you believed existed. That grief is real. Chosen ones rarely talk about this openly because they are used to carrying emotional pain silently. Most people only see your calm exterior. They don't see the internal battles. They don't see how many times you cried privately after interactions that looked normal from the outside. They don't see how deeply certain words affected your spirit because you kept pretending everything was okay. But God saw every moment, every silent tear, every confused prayer, every night you asked yourself, why does this relationship feel so heavy? And now He is answering you through clarity, because clarity is mercy. Confusion keeps chosen people trapped in cycles that slowly drain their destiny, but clarity breaks emotional chains, even painful clarity. And here's something most people are too afraid to say directly. Sometimes individuals become emotionally attached to the weaker version of you because your weakness allowed them to feel stronger, more needed, or more significant in comparison. But when God starts healing you, their emotional comfort becomes threatened. That's when subtle resistance appears. That's when encouragement becomes inconsistent. That's when emotional distance begins growing. That's when hidden intentions leak through behavior. You've been witnessing this process already, and your spirit is finally becoming too awake to ignore it anymore. But there is still one thing you have not fully understood yet, something deeper than jealousy, deeper than emotional tension, deeper than hidden resentment. Because the real battle surrounding your life right now is connected to your identity. Your identity is changing, and not everyone benefits from that transformation. Some people learned how to navigate your old wounds. They learned how to influence the version of you that lacked boundaries. But the healed version of you is harder to manipulate. The peaceful version of you is harder to control. The spiritually awakened version of you no longer reacts the same way emotionally. That change shifts the entire dynamic. And once that shift begins, hidden intentions can no longer remain hidden comfortably. Something is being exposed, something you sensed long before today. And in this next season, the truth surrounding the people closest to you is going to become impossible to ignore. If this message keeps confirming things you've silently carried for years.
You already know why you were led here. The hardest battles chosen people fight are rarely visible from the outside. Most people assume spiritual warfare looks dramatic, loud, immediate. But the deepest attacks happen quietly inside relationships that were supposed to feel safe. They happen slowly, through emotional erosion, through confusion, through guilt, through years of doubting what your spirit was trying to tell you. And what makes this battle even more painful is that part of you kept hoping the feeling would disappear. You kept telling yourself things would improve if you just stayed patient enough, loving enough, understanding enough. But no matter how much grace you extended, your spirit continued sensing the same underlying tension. Different situations, same emotional outcome. That repetition was the warning. Because God speaks through patterns, and the pattern surrounding this relationship has been repeating for longer than you realize. There were moments when you shared something meaningful and instantly felt the atmosphere shift. Moments when your happiness seemed to create discomfort instead of joy. Moments when your confidence triggered strange reactions that made no logical sense at the time. You noticed it, but because you didn't want conflict, you trained yourself to emotionally minimize what you felt. That self-silencing became survival for you, especially if you grew up in environments where expressing your truth created tension. Chosen ones learn early how to suppress themselves emotionally.
They become experts at reading rooms, adjusting energy, avoiding reactions, carrying emotional burdens quietly. They become emotionally mature far too young because life forced them to develop awareness before they were ready, and people misunderstood that strength. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your patience meant blindness. They thought your kindness meant you would tolerate anything forever. But something has changed inside you now. You are no longer asleep to emotional truth. That's why this season feels spiritually intense. God is pulling you out of emotional fog and into discernment. And discernment changes everything, because once you truly see people clearly, you can never completely return to unconsciousness again. You're beginning to recognize that some of the pain you carried did not originate within you. Some of it came from constantly absorbing the emotional projections of others. Some of it came from carrying relationships that drained your spirit while pretending everything was normal. Some of it came from being emotionally available to people who were never emotionally safe for you. And that realization can shake a person deeply, because chosen ones naturally blame themselves first. You spent years asking, "What's wrong with me?" But the better question was always, "Why do I keep feeling spiritually heavy around certain people?" That question leads to awakening. And once awakening begins, God starts exposing what you could not fully see before. Listen carefully. Not every person who smiles at you is emotionally aligned with your destiny. Not every person who says they love you celebrates your elevation internally. And not every family connection is spiritually healthy simply because blood is involved. That truth is difficult for compassionate people to accept, because your heart naturally wants unity. You wanted mutual understanding. You wanted emotional safety. You wanted to believe loyalty guaranteed purity of intention. But life taught you differently. And God allowed you to experience these painful lessons for a reason. Because your future requires stronger discernment than your past did. Where you are going, emotional confusion would become dangerous. That's why heaven has been increasing your sensitivity lately. You notice things faster now. You feel energy shifts immediately. You detect hidden tension beneath words. Your spirit responds before your mind can rationalize the interaction away. That sensitivity is preparation, not punishment. And one of the clearest signs that this message is truly meant for you is that you've already been pulling away emotionally without fully understanding why. Part of you has been craving solitude lately, silence, distance from certain conversations, distance from emotional chaos, distance from environments that leave your soul feeling exhausted. You thought maybe you were becoming cold, but you are not becoming cold, you are becoming aware. There is a major difference. Awareness changes what your spirit can tolerate. Things that once felt normal now feel draining, because your soul is no longer willing to abandon itself for acceptance. That transformation is sacred, even if it feels lonely at first. And yes, loneliness has followed you for a long time, hasn't it? Not because you hate people, not because you are antisocial, but because few people truly understand the emotional depth you carry. You've spent much of your life feeling emotionally different, watching others connect easily while you silently sense deeper layers underneath conversations. You noticed inconsistencies others ignored. You felt atmospheres others overlooked. That heightened awareness isolated you. But what if the isolation was never punishment? What if God allowed periods of loneliness because He was training your discernment away from emotional dependency? Chosen ones often lose false emotional attachments before entering their real purpose. And during that separation process, relationships begin revealing their true foundations. Some become stronger through truth. Others weaken when control disappears. That's exactly what's happening now. The emotional dynamic is shifting because you are shifting. You no longer seek constant validation the way you once did. You no longer need approval to trust your instincts. You no longer automatically dismiss your discernment to make others comfortable. And people who unconsciously benefited from your self-doubt can feel themselves losing emotional influence over you. That creates tension, not always openly, sometimes subtly, sometimes through withdrawal, sometimes through criticism, sometimes through emotional guilt, sometimes through making you feel selfish for finally protecting your peace. But protecting your peace is not selfishness, it is wisdom. And one of the biggest lies chosen people believe is that maintaining relationships should cost them their emotional stability, so they continue tolerating unhealthy dynamics out of guilt, while their spirit slowly becomes exhausted. God is ending that cycle in your life now. That's why the exposure feels so strong. And here is the deeper revelation you were not expecting. The real danger was never simply another person's hidden intentions. The real danger was your tendency to ignore your own discernment, because every time you silenced what your spirit was warning you about, you moved further away from your own clarity. You learned to distrust yourself emotionally. You learned to override your intuition. You learned to carry internal discomfort while pretending externally that everything was fine. That habit wounded you more deeply than you realize. But healing begins the moment truth becomes more important than appearances, and that moment has arrived. You are finally seeing that discernment is not hatred, boundaries are not cruelty, distance is not betrayal. Sometimes separation is protection, sometimes reduced access is wisdom, sometimes silence is healing. And sometimes God reveals hidden intentions not to destroy relationships, but to prevent those relationships from destroying your spirit. That sentence just unlocks something inside somebody listening right now, because deep down you already know this message is connected to your real life. You've been praying for clarity without even realizing it. Asking God silently to help you understand why certain relationships felt emotionally heavy despite all your efforts to keep the peace. This is your answer. Not everyone around you has been emotionally aligned with your growth. And the reason the tension increased recently is because your spirit is evolving beyond old emotional patterns. The version of you entering this next chapter cannot continue abandoning itself for temporary comfort. That cycle has ended. There's another truth you need to hear. Some people genuinely love you but still carry unresolved emotions that affect how they treat you. Human beings are complicated. Someone can care about you and still envy your resilience. Someone can love you and still feel disturbed by your transformation. Someone can support you sometimes while secretly comparing their life to yours internally. That emotional conflict leaks into behavior, and because you are spiritually sensitive, you feel those contradictions deeply. That's why certain interactions confused you so much. Words said one thing, energy said another, and your spirit kept detecting the mismatch. Chosen ones live with this tension constantly because they feel what others try to hide emotionally. It's why you've often felt exhausted in environments where everyone else appeared comfortable. Your soul notices undercurrents most people ignore. But instead of trusting that gift, you spent years questioning it. Not anymore. This season is about reclaiming trust in what God placed inside you. Your discernment was never your enemy, it was your protection. And once you fully accept that, your entire life will begin changing. Relationships will change, boundaries will change, your peace will change, even your conversations will change, because you will stop explaining yourself endlessly to people committed to misunderstanding you. That freedom is coming, but first, clarity had to arrive. That is why this message found you now and not years ago. Years ago, you might have ignored it completely because you were still emotionally attached to keeping everyone comfortable. But pain has matured your spirit, repetition has sharpened your awareness, experience has opened your eyes. You are finally ready to see clearly. And the truth is, your spirit recognized this long before your mind accepted it. You knew something was wrong every time you walked away emotionally drained. You knew something felt off every time your success created strange silence instead of celebration. You knew your energy shifted around certain people even when nothing obvious was said. You knew, and God knew too. That's why this season is not about fear. It is about awakening. Awakening to your worth. Awakening to your discernment. Awakening to the reality that your peace is sacred. And awakening to the fact that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your spirit simply because they have history with you. The next chapter of your life will require emotional courage. You will need the strength to honor what your spirit knows, even when other people misunderstand your boundaries. You will need the wisdom to choose peace over guilt. You will need the confidence to stop shrinking your light for people who feel threatened by your growth. But you are ready now. That's the reason this message reached you. Because God is no longer allowing you to sleep through what your spirit has already recognized. And once a chosen person fully awakens to emotional truth, nothing around them remains the same again.